2 hours ago, the Gulf of Oman was a battlefield. Right now, it is empty. 11 Iranian warships were sitting in those waters 48 hours ago. Today, the number is 0. This is not a setback for Tehran. This is the destruction of a naval force built over decades. All navy is gone in 2 days. Donald Trump said it plainly on March 3rd. Iran has no navy. It has been knocked out. To understand how this happened, you need to understand what Iran thought was coming and why that thinking was completely wrong. After American and Israeli strikes hit a large portion of Iran's military leadership, Tehran decided to fight back. It launched attacks on several U.S. bases across the region. The message was simple. Iran was not going to take punishment quietly. It had a plan. It had spent 30 years building that plan. The plan had one assumption at the center of everything. The United States would come close, bring the big ships into the strait, trigger the swarm response, watch the fast attack boats destroy them. When that moment came, Iran would be ready. That assumption just destroyed everything Iran had at sea. Iran did not build this strategy from nothing. It built it as a response to a humiliation that every senior Iranian naval officer remembers. April 18, 1988. Operation Praying Mantis. U.S. forces destroyed half of Iran's navy in a matter of hours. 2 oil platforms gone. A missile boat gone. 2 frigates gone. 3 armed speedboats gone. It was the worst single blow to Iranian naval power in modern history. Tehran never forgot. Every year of planning after that day was built around one question. How do we make sure that never happens again? The answer was close-range, asymmetric warfare. Fast attack boats swarming larger American ships inside the narrow choke points of the Persian Gulf. Land-based missile batteries lining the coastline ready to fire. Submarines moving through shallow waters to hit ships from below. Drones launched from converted vessels acting as mobile platforms. The Strait of Hormuz was the kill zone. Draw the Americans in. Box them in. Hit them before they can respond. Iran had drilled this for more than 30 years. It believed in it completely. Then Operation Epic Fury started, and that belief became the source of total collapse. But this is where it gets serious. Washington knew exactly what Iran was going to do. By 2026, persistent drone surveillance and deep intelligence collection gave the U.S. a complete picture. Every Iranian vessel tracked at every moment. No ambiguity, no gaps. The fast attack boats waiting in harbor. The submarines. The timing of Iran's layered response. All of it visible to Washington before a single Iranian order was given. And knowing all of that, the U.S. made a decision Iran never planned for. Not once in 30 years of wargaming. The United States decided not to show up the way Iran expected. Ali Burke-class destroyers positioned hundreds of miles from the Iranian coast, far beyond the reach of Iran's fast attack boats, far beyond Iran's land-based missile systems, far beyond every tactic Iran had spent 3 decades building. From that distance, the destroyers started launching Tomahawk cruise missiles. Each Tomahawk has a range of around 1,600 kilometers. The Iranian warships waiting in Bandar Abbas harbor never saw the ships that fired at them. They only saw what was coming through the air. What happened next stunned even senior analysts watching the conflict. The Iris Makran was one of the first to go. Once a commercial oil tanker, Iran had converted this 12,000-ton vessel into a forward-based ship. It could support helicopter operations. It could project naval power across the Gulf. It was one of the largest military vessels in the Middle East. Satellite imagery taken afterward shows smoke rising from its hull while it sits at the dock in Bandar Abbas. It will never leave that dock. Armed with anti-ship missiles and torpedoes, this class of warship was supposed to be a core part of Iran's ability to fight back. Satellite photos show smoke coming from the vessel at Konarak Naval Base. Planet Labs imagery of the Bandar Abbas region, where at least 11 Iranian warships were docked in late February, shows the entire area covered in thick black smoke. And then came the loss that changed everything. The Iris Shahid Bagheri was Iran's most important offensive vessel, a converted commercial ship redesigned to launch drones at scale. It had been sending unmanned aircraft toward U.S. bases and Gulf state targets from the first hours of the conflict. It could also support helicopter operations. It was the closest thing Iran had to an aircraft carrier. Analysts called it possibly the first vessel of that type destroyed in combat since World War II. Whether that comparison is precise or not, the reality is clear. Iran's drone offensive platform is gone. The regime's ability to project air threat from the sea is finished. The damage went beyond the ships themselves. Iranian naval fleet headquarters at Bandar Abbas was largely destroyed. A senior admiral of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was killed in an Israeli airstrike. The command structure that was supposed to coordinate Iran's entire response has been cut at multiple points at the same time. Now look at why Washington targeted the Navy specifically. And this is the part that most people are missing. Iran's conventional military has long been weaker than the regime pretends. Equipment is old. Sanctions have degraded everything for decades. Much of the Air Force flies American-built aircraft from the pre-revolutionary era. The Navy operates converted commercial ships alongside aging warships with almost no modern upgrades. Against the raw firepower of the United States, Iran was never going to win a direct exchange. Everyone in Washington knew that. Everyone in Tehran knew that too. But Iran had one piece of real leverage: the Strait of Hormuz. Around 20% of all global crude oil shipments pass through this narrow waterway. For China, the number is even larger. Nearly 46% of the country's oil supply travels through the strait. Gulf states and Asian economies and global energy markets all carry significant exposure to any disruption there. A senior advisor to the Revolutionary Guard commander said it directly on March 2nd. The strait is closed. Any ship that tries to pass will burn. The same official claimed oil prices would reach $200 per barrel within days. This was loud talk, but carried a real threat inside it. Controlling the strait does not require a powerful navy. It requires enough fast attack boats and submarines and mines to make shipping companies and insurance underwriters decide the risk is not worth it. By one estimate, total traffic through the strait had already fallen by around 80% as the conflict escalated. That number is the full weight of Iran's leverage in this fight. The US did not destroy Iran's navy to weaken Iran militarily. Iran was already militarily weak. The US destroyed Iran's navy to remove the one tool that gave Tehran the ability to hurt the global economy. Take away the Strait of Hormuz threat, and Iran has nothing left. No escalation path that leads anywhere better. No threat that forces a favorable negotiation. The naval campaign was not really a military operation. It was the removal of Iran's last economic weapon. And the propaganda has nowhere left to go. Tehran's state media claimed a wave of Iranian ballistic missiles struck the USS Abraham Lincoln. The US released photographs of the carrier operating fully in the region. That ship is untouched. Iran also launched around 400 missiles and roughly 1,000 drones against Gulf states, including Qatar and Jordan and the United Arab Emirates. Those numbers sound large. They are not. They represent a significantly lower level of output than what Iran deployed after Operation Midnight Hammer in the summer of 2025, when US and Israeli strikes destroyed much of Iran's nuclear infrastructure. The trajectory is clear. Each Iranian response is smaller than the last. Each escalation produces less than the one before it. Senior officials watching from outside the conflict are describing what they see as the final performance of a regime trying to look powerful while everything collapses around it. Washington now faces a question of its own. What comes next is not about military victory. That part is already settled. The question is what a post-naval Iran looks like, and whether the regime can survive the humiliation of what just happened to a force it spent 30 years building to be undefeatable. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters on March 2nd that the hardest hits are still coming, that the operations so far were about removing an imminent threat, that language suggests Washington is not finished and does not intend to stop at naval infrastructure. Deep inside Moscow, a man is watching all of this very carefully. Vladimir Putin understands something that is not yet being discussed openly in Western capitals. The collapse of Iranian military credibility is not just an Iranian problem, it is a Russian problem. The strategic relationship between Moscow and Tehran was built on a shared assumption that Iran could absorb and resist American military pressure. That assumption no longer holds. Every ally watching this conflict is now running the same calculation, and the numbers are not coming out in favor of resistance. 2 days ago, Iran had a navy. Today, it has smoke and wreckage, and a doctrine that failed at the first real test. The Gulf of Oman has been emptied. The Strait of Hormuz leverage is being stripped away in real time. And in Washington, there is no scramble for an exit. There is only the next target list.